Science or God? Which one is it? These are things that are constantly clashing. What we know by the percentage of it, 50% of the scientists do believe in a higher power, and the other 50% might be agnostic or do not. But in the one side, evolutionists, they theorize that small changes over time due to natural selection, random mutations and random things passed on, was able to create life what we now see is presented from a single bacteria and some single replications of those bacteria will later to create smaller organisms, aquatic organisms, land organisms, and now fairly complex organisms. Well, to start with, Charles Darwin in the 1900s theorized that of natural selection. Well, we know that Charles Darwin studied the beaks of these birds that were able to adapt to the environment. So the length and size of these beaks of these birds would change because they were changing to its environment. Well, that theory was observable. It was predicted, theorized, supported, and concluded. And that followed the 6 to 7 steps of the scientific method. But now we're applying the same concept to all life on Earth and everything that has developed in Earth or is shown here on Earth. Furthermore, you have the scientists or physicists like Albert Einstein, who theorized in how the universe, he first predicted that the universe was infinite and had no beginning or end. But turns out Albert Einstein created the equation E equals mc squared, where light is the constant and where the universe had a beginning and it's finite. Finite meaning that it has a beginning and an end. It can be measured. Albert Einstein was quoted saying that the more I study science, the more I theorize or believe that there is God. Furthermore, we got the evidence of the DNA enigma and how the complexity of these proteins sequences make up and help create and procreate life. How 23 chromosomes from each parent combined together create a human being that is fairly complex and different in all their ways. And where it develops, it doesn't have the same train of thought. It's its own physical being. As for all the animals in this universe, where we're not clones of each other, we're not artificially things, but we're a set of our own. And then there is the theory of a reducible complexity, right? If so we say that these bacteria were able to replicate and evolve, what came first, right? Was it the toenails? Was it the eyes? Was it the mouth or the nose? If all these things were changing smallly and gradually over time, these things could not have come all together all at once. It was a slow process. And so that kind of disproves the idea of how small changes over time creates life, where all these organisms need to be all together at once to fully function and to work. Also, we got the archaeological datings and how these things have been discovered through these scriptures and all these ancient books, and where these kings and empires were there and have been located in the exact locations in the exact mapping in these scriptures. We also know that going back to 2,000 years ago, this is when we start our modern era. And 2,000 years ago, Christianity exploded. Furthermore, beyond this idea where evolution and God is clashing or does not come together, we get the idea that of the fossil record, where the fossil record kind of disproves that there is, or so they thought that it disproved that there is no such thing as God, because there is a common ancestor and it could be utilized by a fossil record. But to that, its contrary, there is a Cambrian explosion where Darwin himself couldn't help but to think that these organisms just popped into existence in the fossil record. And not all organisms are able to be fossilized. Carbon dating or isotope rating decay shows that 425 million years ago, billions of years ago, Earth was here due to uranium. But we know in Einstein's relativity, the only constant in the universe is light. So everything else can also be displayed as not accurate, because even time can be dilated, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And I leave you with this. Just how I ask myself these questions, I encourage you to ask these questions about life in general and help you come to a conclusion. And just like Albert Einstein quoted, I do believe that all these things point to one being and one essence in all this enormous and complexity things that surround us. Thank you.